Welcome to the Love on the Line TV conversations. This is a special conversations from upstate Queensland in Bundaberg, winter sunshine, which is a little bit in our face actually. And I'm here talking with Patricia Meister. I'm very, very honored to have you talking with me, and thank you and welcome, Patricia.
Thank you. I'm honoured to have you speak to me as well.
It is so interesting how we met, isn't it?
It is.
We met through the Queensland Police recovery group.
Yes, that's
Yes.
where we met.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it is, in my opinion, quite interesting how sometimes when you have been scammed like this, I mean, like we been survivors of scamming, you actually make new, very, very interesting friends, don't you?
It's opened a whole new door for me in terms of meeting new people. So in that way, it's been a really positive thing.
Yes.
There is a positive thing.
Yeah, and they are like things that what are happening. It's online. You had bought my book before, and I was really, really intrigued that you told me that, you know, this is how you met the group. And there was another person there as well who said, oh, they had listened to Love on the Line TV conversations, and that's how they found the group. So we might as well say that this group meets every second Sunday of the month at the Queensland Police Headquarters. So if you happen to be listening to this and looking at us, and then here are two people you find who has actually found this group through meeting and reading books. Tell me a little bit about your story. It is quite complex in what it comes to scamming, and we actually counted about 10 scams. So I'll give it to you. Tell me.
Yeah. My story is really complicated.
Yeah.
I actually did, by accident, come across my scammer online. He groomed me for probably a good 4 weeks.
Yes.
Before he really started to ask me for any money. In that time, he romanced me, he gave me music, he gave me poetry. He spent a lot of time priming me, if you like.
Yes.
And so the first request for money was actually not a huge amount. He had supposedly entered Malaysia with a large amount of money and had his goods confiscated by immigration.
I see.
Then, after a series of events of trying to get the goods back, that was the first request for money was for living expenses because his credit card supposedly didn't work over in Malaysia. So the first request for money was around about $600.
All right.
And even though it felt wrong to me, I went ahead and I did that transfer.
Yes.
And that was the first transfer I made to Malaysia. It was probably the beginning of a series of events that led me on an incredible fantasy journey that ended up relieving me of a large sum of money in the end. The second request for money came to get the goods out of immigration.
Yeah.
And then after that money was sent, which was quite a sizable sum, the next amount of money was then because the goods then went to the headman from immigration. So there was another large amount of money required there. Then at that time, the money was supposed to be deposited back to me. However, it never happened because the bank was funny about the amount of money. So the next step was that we would send it by diplomatic courier. So the diplomatic courier then delivered this supposed consignment of money. It was very professional, and I couldn't pick that it was fake. It had its own tracking menu. It had tracking sheets that I could access. However, then the money went to the courier company, which then supposedly the money then went to Kuala Lumpur airport, where it was held up because we then required an exit clearance fee.
All right. Yeah, and a large one.
That was a large one. That was around about $25,000.
Oh my goodness. Mm.
Yeah. So after that amount of money was paid, I was then told that to make it completely safe to come back here, we would then require a diplomatic red stamp. So that was another amount of money, of course. And all the while now, I was starting to be very concerned about this consignment, in that he had sent me a application form from Malaysian Internal Affairs that he had filled out with the address listed as the address of my business. And by that time I was so far in, it was very hard to get out, because in my mind I had a consignment of money sitting at Kuala Lumpur airport that was listing me as a recipient.
Yeah.
However, there was no consignment, as we found out in the end, but it then sort of led into a red stamp situation where that was more money. So then finally the money was acquired to get this red stamp, and the consignment supposedly was on its way to Australia. Then I had a tracking sheet telling me that the consignment was in New Zealand, and then it was another tracking sheet that told me it was now at Melbourne Airport. At the same time, I got a SMS message from a supposed diplomat with an Australian phone number, telling me that the consignment had now been held up at Melbourne Airport and required an entry clearance fee of another $25,000. So at this stage, I guess I was still believing that this was a reality, though I was starting to think, oh my God, so many stories. How can there be so many dramas? And you know, money was getting harder to get by this stage. So
and what was the thing that tipped it over?
The tipping it over in terms of me realising I'd been scammed.
Yes.
Well, I got the entry clearance money together. That week, my scammer was supposed to be coming back here. We were also supposed to be doing Skype that week. And he was supposed to be going to pick up the entry clearance money from the bank that morning, deliver it to the courier company, book his flights. End of story. Well, of course, that never happened. And I got a phone call at work on that Monday afternoon, and I had a rather, shall we say, unpleasant. He was an Asian man, let's say. And he then said to me that my scammer had been involved in a very serious car accident with his lawyer. Of course, the lawyer was a main player in the scam all the time. The lawyer was the one that he dealt with immigration with. The lawyer was the one whose bank account I was supposed to be paying into. At the end, it did appear that the lawyer was a Malaysian woman who worked with telecommunications.
I see.
And that was what I found when I Googled that name, which was a very unusual name. Anyway, he was supposed to be in a critical condition. And all the while I was then getting emails from a so-called wellness clinic. And being that I have a background in medical science, I started to sort of think to myself, if you're involved in a critical car accident, you are going to be in intensive care. in a major hospital in Kuala Lumpur, and I will not be getting an email from a wellness medical clinic with an Outlook email address.
Yeah.
So my son actually alerted me. He said, "Mum, there is no wellness medical clinic in Kuala Lumpur." And he directed me to an embassy site, US Embassy in Malaysia. And so I went there and had a look, and oh my God, there was my story.
Oh!
You know, almost it was businessman working overseas. He was a widower. Scammers have incredibly bad
I just
luck.
wanted to ask, what was it that tipped you it over until, you know, we counted now about 9 different kinds of scams, which were one after the other, which your scammer, you know, tried on you and actually was quite successful. So what was the 10th one that actually tipped it over?
It was the car accident.
Yeah.
It was just one too many stories, and I had read about people getting scammed because of accidents occurring and medical reasons.
Yes.
And so that really rung a bell for me. I wasn't so savvy with the whole complexity of the courier company and the consignment and the confiscation of goods by immigration. I really was unaware of those kinds of scams, but I had heard about the medical, and I used to keep thinking to myself, well, I haven't had a medical issue yet.
Yes.
And then when that happened, it just rung a huge bell with me.
Yes.
That I at that moment when I got that phone call from the wellness medical clinic, so-called, I thought, well, he's going to be in a major hospital anyway. I would have a doctor phoning me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have some incognito person giving me a ring. And at that moment, I just I think my heart just dropped to my shoes. I just thought, oh my God, I've been scammed.
Yeah, and by that time when you counted to money, you had nearly lost a 6-figure sum already.
Yes.
Yes, so it's quite a wake-up call, is it?
It was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It was like, I think, for the day, I couldn't even really finish my day at work. I was just, oh my God, you know. And
you also said you confronted your scammer.
I did indeed.
Yeah.
After the accident, well, the scam didn't end there because then they did try and hit me up for medical expenses, and by that time, wow, I was just out of money. So then, whilst he was supposedly in hospital,
yes,
I then got hit up by the courier company for another $25,000 entry for the entry fee.
Yes.
Which I refused to pay. Yeah. They had then threatened they were going to hand the consignment into the Australian authorities, and I ended up getting legal advice on that, actually. Yeah. My lawyer told me that I'd been scammed and there was no consignment, so, you know, don't pay any more money.
Yeah, it's quite interesting how long time something that went on for about 6 months, you say?
Yeah, 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.